Hello, everybody. My name is Josh, and today I'm going to talk about the field of journalism, more broadly about how to get into the field and how to maintain a job, but also some key tips, um, just considering how you can stay afloat in the field. I think the very first thing I want to talk about is how to basically um, keep a job in this market of craziness. We all know that the pandemic has been crazy in the years of 2020 and 2021, and a lot of the unsung heroes of this pandemic have been the media. They've been trying to report everything, just keeping us safe, reporting everything from mask mandates to guidelines to what the CDC has to tell us to what Dr. Anthony Fauci has just said about any just particular given thing. And I think that we owed a lot to them as they are hardworking people. And with that hard work comes a lot of stress. As we know, political tensions in the country aren't at the best moment right now, and they are the worst they've been probably since the Civil War. And with the just moderate or just partisan split between liberal, Democrat, leftist, right wing, it just is very, very hard to find correct information in this day of age that isn't particularly biased towards one political party or another, or one political candidate or another. But it's just good to know that maybe somewhere out there there's honest journalists, and that is what I intend to be. I think one thing that a lot of the experts I talked to said, they all just told me that it's a very diversifying field, and that although it's very male centered, it still has great prospects in that you can meet so many new people when you go into the field, get to know a lot of people, and also make lifelong friends. Um, Journalism within itself, I guess I should just first start off. It's a field that involves informing the public on major news stories that cover a range of social, economic, and political issues. So this can range from actions the president has taken to um, social events like some gala, or economic events like a drop in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin market going downhill, or a general economic recession, or even stock market crash. Um, Journalists have to be the ones to educate the public a lot on certain events that are occurring, and basically how they transpire out. Um, and just along with this, a lot of journalism workers and journalists and marketers have to kind of play into the hands of the companies they work for, because obviously they don't want the bad publicity behind it. And with that, I think it takes a lot of guts to also be one, because basically you're having to take a job that is very highly critiqued in today's society and build it out of your own on it. And I think that's important to know, mainly because we just live in a very diversified society. To be a journalist, you have to have great grammar skills. You have to be a good writer, no matter what kind of field you go into. This could be mass communication. This could be journalism. This could be public relations. This could be radio, television, anything you can think of. I'm pretty sure that they probably have a writing job for anything, and this can go from any field, from economics to history to even sports medicine. And a lot of the things you have to be good at are the willingness just to work long hours, talk with people, interview people as well. That's a very crucial part of being a journalist. But also being able to schedule your work and fit deadlines. Um, One of the woman I talked to, her name's Mary. She was an editor. She just told me that the deadlines can get very dicey because they obviously have to get a lot in. Because you're expected every day to churn out the news for everybody. You also have to have meetings that basically describe, okay, this is when you can release this is when you release that. It's just a hard job in that sense that you have to always keep on a timeline, but you always have to get that work in. um, Another one that I just wanted to mention was great communication and language skills. I think in the field of journalism, it's very, very, very um, important that you have good language skills. One of the people I talked to was a Spanish major. I am personally planning on minoring in French. And in this sense, basically, I plan on just the journalism field in general. Languages are important because you have to reach out to communities who might not speak English, who might have a little bit of a different perspective on the world than you, who might have immigrated here. You have to be able to reach out to your entire community, and language is key, but also great English skills are as well. And networking with colleagues and interviewees is also important because you have to make sure that you are networking with the correct people. Networking can open so many doors for you in journalism and in any other job. Really, it's just making the connections that are going to be very necessary to your career and could even lead to higher paying positions or just the base for something even bigger. Um, I think one of the main things that a lot of people misconcept with journalism is the lower pay and the not great like workrooms. But actually, journalism involves a lot of just traveling around any given city or country that you are assigned to, and doing your job, interviewing people, going to sites. Um, and that can include anything from stadiums, so maybe you're broadcasting the World Series, to crime scenes, maybe you are reporting a recent murder. And newsrooms will have many challenging prospects, but they are good to work in general. They're hives of energy where people are all working together to create a general good product. Um, I think that just in general, journalism is very, very, very broad. It's a term that I can't even put into words because it's just so many sectors. I'd like to think of it as reporting, just reporting the news, or a set of writing skills that try to convince or sway the public or inform or educate the public. And I think that in college, it's very important to get into a journalism degree or even a minor. If you want to major in something else, I'm sure that's fine. A lot of journalists don't actually major in journalism. It's not even needed in today's age of the internet. And also, mass communication is extremely important because you have to know how to make those connections so that the public feels not only convinced with your story, but also at ease to know that maybe they are safe from something. You are basically the person trying to make the public feel safe, besides your politicians. And in a way, because politicians are paid a lot of money, sometimes they can have bias. Politicians all the time have bias because they have to work towards the benefit of their party. Journalists, while at times they can be partisanly split between liberal or conservative, I think like to think most of them are kind of in the middle or centrist in the fact that they just report the news that's right. They don't have to have a political opinion because it doesn't depend on their jobs. Well, maybe at times it does, but you you get what I mean. And then just interning at news organizations is great because it kind of just helps you get a sense of what you're doing. One of the people I interviewed, my aunt, she interned at CNN, and she kind of got a lot of the good just information that she needed from that internship to go into a producing role later in her life at an NBC station in Texas, but also into PR later in life. And just on the note of wages, the average journalist salary in the state of Virginia, where I'm from, is $19 an hour. But according to Salary Explorer, journalists make upwards of 55,000 to 171,000 a year in total dollars. Just to put that in perspective, the average wage for a journalist is $110,000 a year in the United States, whereas a scientist could be up to like 150, 200,000. Um, and just in general, entry job wages might be lower, obviously, because you're not going to really be in a big position when you're trying to go into the entry job. The wages will increase, however, as you seek higher positions into the field. So you make your way up the ranks, it's going to get easier for you. And unfortunately, journalism jobs are some of the lowest paying but highest rewarding jobs in the market. So although you're not getting paid maybe high, at the end of the day, your work's going to pretty much be seen by the general public. And you are a public servant. So at least at the end of the day, you're helping out the public stay informed of what they need. And in a sense, I think that that's a perfect medium. Um, I think one worrying thing I've always had, and this is what the free people that talk to me, is that, yeah, some journalism positions can be bleak. I understand that the field's probably very competitive for like the top jobs at networks or top news organizations like the Washington Post, New York Times, NBC, CNBC, etc. And I think that's why you always have to have a backup idea if you don't want to go into that field. So personally, I probably would do an interpreter job. I think that's what Lori, one of my people I interviewed, wanted to do originally, but she went into marketing. Kind of a job like public relations, kind of on the fields of journalism in a sense. And entry jobs in the field of journalism are quite hard to get, but once you secure a good basis, you should be able to move up in the ranks over time. Most journalists I've known have kind of just gone up. Like they've started with these like entry level jobs, like smaller news organizations, but generally you move up. And then people usually have specialties as journalists, so they work out of multiple sectors. So if you're more into like, let's say sports, you're probably going to be more focused towards like sports teams, transactions, contract negotiations, sports agents as well, because you want to obviously get the news out of what about what athletes or teams or managers or coaches are doing. To whereas if you're more focused on like economics, you're probably going to want to report from Wall Street. You're going to want to make sure that the economy's doing okay. And I think if we as we have a globalizing job market, I think it's really important to just know that really it's a broad field. So you can really just take these skills that you learned in journalism and put them into anything. Um, I think that it also ties in a lot to the major media. So a lot of journalism can be considered infographics, social media posts, online articles, editorials, YouTube videos, even. Like if, for example, if you watch Fox News or what's another one? Like the Daily Wire. They'll always post videos of stuff that happens just on a day-to-day basis. And I think that that's really important because as we have a technological advanced world, we have to obviously get the content out to people in easier ways. The internet, and especially YouTube, is such a powerful tool because photojournalists can bring a lot of the events to the eyes of the consumer who is then going to intake that information and get there again be more educated. Um, One thing that concerns me is that journalism is extremely male centered. Now, as a male myself, obviously this won't affect me as much, but I would like to see the field diversify more. However, it's a good thing to know that women are starting to make their role heard. They've always have been. It's just that it's more prominent today than, let's say, like 40, 50 years ago, mainly because the gender pay gap and the patriarchy are still kind of colluding and creating this environment where men, unfortunately, are still at the top. But I think that's going to change. I definitely think so. And women are also underrepresented in newspaper coverage, with only 24% of articles focusing on female subjects. Ironically enough, though, all three subjects or all three interviewees I had, they were all female. So I think it's a very, very, very promising site for anyone that wants journalism to diversify. I think that would be a very good thing, especially for the news, as we need more unbiasedness and more public trust. And as someone who procrastinates a lot, I'm kind of worried about the workload, but it does seem like you can use methods like just keeping up with your conversations, just keeping your source material just small, so that's like writing sticky notes, kind of writing bullet notes, and then just keeping your conversation within one email, so that just takes a lot of the time off your hands that you don't have to do writing multiple emails. And just in general, I think that public relations is probably one of the big just jobs in the future. As my one of my interviewees, who also happens to be my aunt, said, public relations just is booming right now because a lot of companies need people to write their statements, or if anything bad happens, obviously if a worker or just a CEO or executive does something that the public doesn't really find in the best interest, you always need someone to write up a report or just press release. And I think PR firms are the way to go. But I also think that journalism is a great field that's going to be very important to the future. Thank you for listening.